In this video, I'm going to show you how to give Canvas quizzes using numerical formulas that will overcome some of the limitations that Canvas has. If you're used to using Canvas quizzes, they're very powerful. And some of the advantages of using Canvas formulas for quizzes online are each student gets their own random number generated. This is really helpful for making sure that there's not any kind of cheating going on between students. Every student gets their own problem. This is also useful for generating practice problems, so you can let the same student take the same quiz multiple times and they get a different look of their questions and answers each time, so it helps them get better at it. So that's really nice. And the nice thing about this is each student gets their independent number and the rest of the class doesn't see their numbers. And then, of course, the reason we're using Canvas quizzes typically is because it's going to aid us in the grading process. So to get those automatically graded responses are really nice. But the disadvantages of the Canvas formula questions are that each question only has one response allowed. In other words, I can't ask a multi-part question. And that kind of goes into the next. You might think, well, maybe I can just ask one question and the next question will relate to the first one. But you can't pass random variables from one question to another. In other words, if I talk about A, B, and C for question 1 and there's random numbers generated, there's no way to get those same random numbers for the next question. So those ones are huge problems. That's caused a lot of consternation, and a lot of people have just decided not to use formula questions for their courses if their courses include multi-question or multi-part questions. So, for instance, here's a typical quiz that we would ask. Now, this is very simplistic just to kind of go over some general ideas, but let's say that we have this cylinder here in the bottom described by R and H, and what we're interested in doing is finding the surface area, the volume, and the weight. So 3 specific questions. The first 2 questions are entirely independent of each other, while the third question kind of depends on what they find for the volume. So let's remind ourselves about what the formulas would be for the first one. This might not be the simplest way to write it, but I'm going to use this as we make our Canvas quiz. We're going to say that the area of a circle is pi r squared, and the area of the square, kind of unwrapping the cylinder, would be 2 pi r times h. And therefore, the surface area, we've got 2 circles and 1 square, so that would be the total surface area for the first one. For the second one, it's just pi r squared times h for the volume. But the third one, the weight, is our rho that we're given here times the volume. So whatever answer they got for the second one will determine what answer they should get for the first one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a quiz in Canvas where you can spend a little bit of time coding in Excel and then get this automatically graded for you. So let's take a look at the Canvas workspace. Okay, I'm in Canvas now, and I have my course. It's called Youngstone 1, and within that I've got a module already set up called Module for Demo Quizzes, and we can see we've already made our first quiz example. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Quizzes tab, and we'll go ahead and create a new quiz. So plus on the quiz sign, this is going to be, I'm going to call this our cylinder quiz, and we could write some instructions here. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I am going to let students see their answers, and I won't worry about a time limit for this one, but I am going to let them take it multiple times, so allow multiple attempts. Of course, you can do as many as you want. I'll just allow unlimited attempts. And then let's take a look at our questions. We'll go ahead and start with a new question, and this does need to be a formula question, so I'll choose the formula question here, and I'm going to type this one as surface area. And we're just going to go ahead. What I'm going to do, just as an overview, is I'm going to make 3 questions. Only the first one will be a formula question. That's where we'll generate our random numbers. And then the other 2 questions will be numerical entry. And then we'll grade it all after we're finished. So in this first question, I'll go ahead and let the students know. For the next 3 questions, use the cylinder described below. And let's go ahead and put an image in here. So I'll embed an image. I'm going to do it from Canvas, and I will put this in my course file, and you can see I already have something else. You can have lots of subfolders within here, but we'll go ahead and upload a file, and I want this picture of the cylinder to open. Okay, we've got that loaded, and then update, and that puts it in here. It's a little large, so I'll resize it by dragging the handles on the corner. And now for a formula question, the key to generating formulas are to use letters in brackets. That lets us know, that lets Canvas know that what's following is a formula. So what I'm going to do is, first off, I'll make a description. The radius of the circle is, and then I'll start R, and we'll do this in centimeters. The height is, and then in brackets again, H here. And now I've done that. Notice there are two random variables, R and H. We'll let R go between 2 and, let's say, 8. And I want to use 1 decimal place here. So there's our options. You can do recompute, and it'll keep on calculate different values of possibilities between 2 and 8 with a decimal place of 0.1. For the height, let's let that be no smaller than 5, and we'll say it can go up to 15, and again we'll do 1 decimal place. Okay. Now for formulas, you just type the formulas as you want them. Now the way I've set this up is I've actually got 3 different formulas, and the third one is going to be my final answer. So I called it a circle area, and that's going to be equal to, and there might be a shortcut for pi, I don't know it, so I'm going to go ahead and type it in, 3.14159 times r to the second, and we'll go ahead and save that. Okay, so that's calculated a circle area. The next one was a square area, and that's equal to 2 times pi times r times h. Okay, so there's the area of the square, and then putting all those together. Now the final answer is the one that it's actually going to look for. So the surface area, I can put it in as surface area, but I also don't need to do that. So I'm just going to leave that off. I'll put 2 times the circle area plus the square area, and we'll save that as well. This is my final answer. I'm going to let it go to 1 decimal place. Now something to keep in mind, the calculations that are happening up here are actually lots more decimal places. It's only going to round to the last decimal place on this final answer. So sometimes if you have a formula that, sometimes that's important to understand that this decimal place is only affecting this final line here. Okay. Now that I've got that, this is going to be the final answer. This is the correct answer. You can see if I recompute, I've got different options of those answers. And now we need to offer distinct possibilities. What Canvas is only saving is a certain number of combinations. I'm going to go ahead and offer about 20, and I'm going to let it be plus or minus 1. So I'm recording the answer to the 10th, and then I'm going to go ahead and allow the error to be 1. So we'll go ahead and generate all those, and you can see down through here it's choosing values for R and H and giving us a final answer. Now I forgot to actually write the question, so we described it up here. The next thing I need to do is to go ahead and ask the question, what is the surface area of the cylinder in? And then I want to put centimeters squared. So we'll use our math equation editor. So we'll hit the insert, and this is going to be centimeter, then raised to the second, insert equation, and question mark. All right, so there's our first question. We'll go ahead and update this question, and that saves it. There's our surface area question. Now the second question I want to do has to do with finding the volume. So we'll go ahead and make a new question, and in this one I'll call it volume, and we're going to choose this time the numerical answer. And it is very important that you let them know what units they're only going to be able to enter in an answer. Now, the default here is to let there be 2 possible correct answers. I'll get rid of one of them. The other one I'm going to leave at 0. It doesn't really matter because I'm not going to use this to grade at all. We'll come back and worry about that later. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can allow the points of this first one to be 3 points for all 3 questions, or we can let each one have their own set of points. I actually like having all of them be 3 points up at the top. So I'm going to let this one be worth 0 points. And we'll update this question. And I'm going to repeat now for the third question. Okay, so this one is another numerical Answer, if the density is 8.95 grams per cubic centimeter, what is the weight of the cylinder in grams? And again, we've got an exact answer of equal to 0. And again, I'm going to set this to be equal to 0 points here and update question. And then the final step is I'll go back and edit this question and allow it to be 3 points. Okay, so here's our quiz. And after we have our quiz ready to go, we can go ahead and save and publish the quiz. To deploy it as part of the course, what I like to do is do it as part of the module. So I've set my home page up to be the modules page. So I'll go there and modules for demo, I'm going to add an assignment here. And we'll choose quiz, and this cylinder quiz that we just created is there, so we can go ahead and add it. So this is what the students will see. What I'm going to do now is log out of my account and log in as a student account to show you what it's going to look like for the student. Okay, I'm now logged in as a student, so I'll go to the cylinder quiz, the one we just created, and it says complete the following quiz. We'll go ahead and take the quiz. And you can imagine what we'll do here. We'll have 3 places that we can put our answers. This is why it's important that you make sure you let them know what units they need to put. Okay, so calculating the surface area, if the radius is 7.5 and the height is 6.8, we will have a surface area of 673.9. This is going to be centimeters squared for the volume. Let's say that the student gets the answer wrong. So let's just say that their answer is 1,000. That is not the correct answer, but let's say it is. And then the third equation, if you remember, the equation that we need to use is it's just rho times the volume. So if they got 1,000 for the volume here, what they should get is 8,950 grams for their final answer here for the weight, given their mistake for the volume. So those are the three answers that we'll put in, and we'll go ahead and submit that quiz. The way I have this one set up, they automatically see their answers. So you can see that they got answer 3 out of 3, but that doesn't mean that they got everything right. Notice the first answer was correct, but the second 2 answers were incorrect. So there's no way for Canvas to grade these second 2 parts. We'll have to do this after the fact. Okay, now that I'm finished taking the quiz, I'm back in my main page as the teacher, and we're going to look at grades, and we've made a couple of more students here. So we see we actually have 3 students now, and the quiz that we're interested in is this cylinder quiz. Now, if you're at the University of Tennessee or one of the universities that are using Canvas specifically, there'll probably be more information, and these names will actually come from your grade book. What I'm going to do now is I'll go ahead and click on the cylinder quiz here. We'll take a look at quiz statistics. And what we need to do is we need to download the student analysis. So I'll go ahead and do that. Once the report has been generated, we'll open it up with Excel. And it's opened it up as a CSV file. I will want to save that as something different, but before I do, let's walk through what's going on here. We can see that M. Young took it once, Aaron took it twice, and Jimmy took it once. And we can look down and see what their score was, how many they got correct, and how many they got incorrect. There's a unique identification number. There's also a system ID. Again, if you're in the university system, this will probably be generated as some sort of student number that is associated with students. We do have the time as well. This is when it was submitted and what attempt number it was, so we can sort directly by final attempts. So for instance, if we only wanted to grade the most recent attempts, we can do that here and sort this whole thing by the most recent attempts. And then what we're going to see next is the number of the questions. So if I click right here and expand, it doesn't. We can start seeing what the question says. For the next 3 questions, use the cylinder below, and it actually goes beyond that. If I keep expanding, it has the entire question written there. Now we can't see it all. Matter of fact, maybe I should make column 1 a little larger. There we go. So now we can see what the full question says. Question 2 is going to do the same thing. Now you can probably already tell what's going on. These answers here are what the students actually replied. That's their answer. The real trick of this system is to recognize that when we created this formula question, the formula question is going to be reporting to us the random variables that were used as well as the answer for that particular question. So for M. Young the first time it was 6.8 and 14.3, and the answer put down there was 45. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some columns here. So I'm going to insert several columns. I need a total of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be enough. And from here we'll go to column J, and then we'll do text to columns. And I'll do a delimited, and if you notice the less than sign is what we want to look at, as well as a comma. Okay, so this gets us R, and then 6.8 H, and then the answers that were for H, and then the final answers there. And we can go through the rest of the steps and go ahead and finish that out. So we've got our values here. Notice when I wrote the question, I actually put a comma in it, so this top one also was separated. What I like to do at this point is I'm actually going to reduce these down. So I'm going to let this be R, and this will be H, and this will be student surface area. Now I'm actually going to delete these other columns just to clean things up a bit and shorten everything up as well. So now I know what R and H are, and I know what the student got for the surface area. Now, I could go ahead and let that grade suffice, and that's actually probably what I'll do this time. In other words, if they got 3 points here, if they got it right, then we'll just leave it and let that go. This is what it ought to be. What I'm really interested now is this is student volume, and this is how many points they got. We won't worry with that right now. I'm going to change this category to be actual volume. Now, if you notice, we've not yet typed in the volume equation anywhere. So we need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and make all of these bold. So now before I actually start typing in equations, I will go ahead and save it as an Excel file instead of a CSV. And here for our volume, this is going to be equal to pi times radius squared times our height. All right, that's what the answer should have been. And let's go ahead and populate that on down. Notice there's several of these that got it right. What I like to do is to go ahead and put another column that I'll let will be volume difference. But at this point, you can see how we're going to be able to use this to help us grade. This will just be equal to what the student got minus what I got. And so if this answer is not 0, then they got it wrong, and if it's close to 0, then they got it right. We could make this more complicated, so you could do a round. I'm going to round to the single digit here so we can see. All right, so Aaron actually got the volume right both times, and neither Jimmy nor M. Young did get the volume correct. So the next thing that we had here was the weight. This was student weight. I'm going to use this category here to be actual weight, and this is where we can do partial credit. I know that the equation here will be equal to 9.85 times the volume, but which volume should I use? And it seems if you want to give partial credit, at least, the thing to use would be the student volume. Whatever they got for their volume is what you'll use. So we'll go ahead and calculate that. And again, I'll populate it down through here, insert another column, and this will be weight difference. One of the nice things about this is that if you make a mistake, you can fix it here, right? So I meant to put 8.95, but I actually typed in 9.85. So let's switch that. This should be 8.95. Here we go. All right, so Aaron again, one time got it wrong and one time got it right, and then Jimmy and Aaron both got it right, and M. Young just looks like he's out in left field somewhere. So from here now we can go ahead and give final grades. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll look at this right here. This was the answer for surface area, and again, if it was 0, it was correct, and it was wrong, and if it's 3, it's correct. And so so maybe what I should do, let's add one more column and let there be points. So this is points for 1. And again, we can be programmatic. If answers, if this one is equal to 0, then 0 else 1. Okay, so that gives me 1 point here for whatever they got. For our volume, we'll put a column here. We'll say equals if. Okay, so again, this shows that Erin, in both of her attempts, she got 1 point for this one. And finally, for this third one, let me add a column here. We'll go ahead and say this is points for 3. I can just repeat this, Control C and Control V. Now for the total for the quiz, we'll go ahead and delete these two columns over here. We're not going to use those anyway. This will just be equal to the sum of each of these points. So this one plus this one plus this one. M. Young got 0 out of 3 and Jimmy got 2 out of 3. Okay, so all is well. The only last thing is to figure out how to report it. To do that, what I like to do is to go to the grades column, and for the cylinder quiz we'll go into speed grader, and I'll put comments here. So this is Erin and this is attempt 2, which was the 3 out of 3. So for Erin here for 3 out of 3, I would just go ahead and leave that 3 that's there. I'll go to the next one. Jimmy here has 2 out of 3. Okay, so for Jimmy, he got the volume incorrect. He had 1,000 and it should not have been 1,000. It was supposed to be, if I look back at my sheet, 1202. So I could choose where I want to give him the comment. If I want to give him the feedback here, I could do that. So so you could do that, or you could not have any comments at all, and they'll just have to get with you if they have any questions. But you do need to, this was originally 3. I do need to change it to 2 out of 3 because that's what his score says. And then come down here to update scores and click on the update scores button, and that will save the comment as well as save the score. So now when I go back to, well, let's look at M. Young. He missed all of them, so I'm not going to give him any comments. It'll just be 0 out of 3. Go back to the main page here, and we see their scores are correctly reflected. Okay, so so everything is now documented. If you're used to importing grades under actions here, you can export and import. You could do this autonomously, at least the total grade, not the comments. But you could take the column that you generate here with the total for the quiz and insert those points into your exported grade book. I won't show you in this video, but that's there's plenty of tutorials out there that show how to do that. And so then you could automatically get your grades into the gradebook if you want to just do it as a kind of a brute force quick return. So all this shows how to give partial credit, as well as have multi part questions for numerical answer and formula questions in Canvas.